Some movies fail so badly that you are left wondering how anyone approved their budget in the first place. Underwater is not one of those movies. And this pisses me off, because trust me, there is a very good film hiding in there. I mean, the setting is great, the production design is excellent, even if the film keeps hiding half of it in darkness. And there are some really good horror scenes. Every few minutes, it shows you the movie it could have been, and then jumps off a cliff. So for the first episode of this little experiment in fixing movies, we are going 7 miles beneath the ocean, where the pressure is crushing, the darkness is absolute, and no one can hear you scream. Yes, I know, I went there. The basic idea is almost too good to mess up. Take Alien, move it to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, add elements of the Abyss and Sphere, throw in a pinch of Leviathan, and put everybody in a place where one cracked wall can turn you into jelly. And yes, underwater feels a lot like Alien in the deep, and some of my changes are probably going to push it even more in that direction. But you know what? Alien is a truly great movie, and I do love me some Alien in the deep, when it is done properly and has something different to add. So yeah, let's make it more like Alien and actually improve on it. The heroes run through corridors trying to escape a monster. Ours run through flooded corridors trying to escape the monster, while also trying not to drown. Jokes aside, I don't mind a movie borrowing from another, as long as it understands what made the original work and brings something new to the table. The bottom of the ocean gives underwater a great setting because, like space, there is nowhere to go, no escape. The cast works. Krista Stewart stands out as the melancholic and capable Nora, while Vincent Cassel gives gravitas and a tired authority to the captain. Both characters are also carrying loss. Nora lost her fiancé, and Lucien lost his daughter. Even though the film doesn't do much with that connection, it gives us an easy way to improve their relationship without adding a whole new subplot. The rest of the cast is solid, which means the foundation for a stronger film is already there. We just need to poke a bit. The movie begins with Nora brushing her teeth, and almost straight away, the station starts coming apart. It is fast, violent, and very well made, but it happens so suddenly, and to characters we have never even met, that there is no time for fear to take hold. Their deaths barely register. That is the main problem for me. Alien and the Abyss spend some time with their crews. We see them working, talking, flirting, and annoying each other. So when all hell breaks loose, we are already invested in keeping these poor bastards alive. And to be honest, that's one of my problems with a lot of modern horror. Sometimes the characters are so annoying that instead of worrying about whether the monster will get them, you start quietly hoping it kills everyone, slowly and painfully. I'm looking at you, From. Now, I know there is a fair counter-argument here. Some will find the immediate drop into action refreshing, even original. I am just not one of them. I like my characters established before we put them into the grinder. That does not mean an action-heavy introduction cannot work. Raiders of the Lost Ark managed it just fine. But either way, you still need a lot more character building. If you want to keep the breakneck pace, it is better to do that work at the start than to keep slowing the pace for exposition later. That way, once the station ruptures, the movie can go full throttle and stay there. And this does not require 5 minutes of dialogue. In The Abyss, Bud angrily throws his wedding ring into a chemical toilet. In a matter of seconds, we understand everything. His marriage is falling apart. He is furious with his wife. But he still loves her. That is all I am asking for. Underwater tries something similar when Nora briefly touches something at her chest, presumably connected to her fiancé. And I will be honest, I completely missed it. I thought she had a heart condition, or a recent operation, or heartburn. The Abyss scene, on the other hand, I got. So let's give the movie moments that are just as clear. We begin with the pressure control system starting to fail. The engineer on shift tries the standard fixes. Nothing works. So they call Nora. She studies the problem, grabs something that was never designed for the job, and improvises a solution. And just like that, the system comes back online. Straight away, we know who she is. The person people call when the normal solution does not work. At the same time, the failure gives us a little mystery. Maybe other systems have been acting strangely too. Lucian watches her finish, gives her a small nod, and walks away. Nora tries not to show how much that approval means to her. I would also give Lucian one short private scene in French with his estranged wife. She tells him that after their daughter died, he buried himself in his work, first spending years on a TN expedition off Pompeii, and now hiding at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Another breadcrumb. Because the conversation is private, only the audience knows his daughter is dead. So when Lucian later says she's still 14, the crew hears an ordinary answer, while we understand the mistake. Part of him has frozen her at the age she died. That allows us to cut the scene where Nora finds the memorial card. It also allows Cassel to speak French in the film. If you have one of the great international stars in your movie, well, use him. Before that call, I would let the crew ask the obvious question. What are they really drilling for? Tian claims it's oil, but maybe that's not the whole story. Smith says he had never heard of Tian Industries before taking the job, but they pay well. Lucian shuts the conversation down. We're not paid to ask questions. Later, when he is alone, Lucian calls Tian, reports the failures and strange readings, and asks them to suspend the drilling. The readings at Nan Madol and Antarctica were nothing like this. Something is wrong here. Tian refuses and reminds him that his job is to continue the operation, not question it. That is enough. Now Tian is part of the mystery. They know something. Maybe Lucian does too. And I think underwater badly needs questions like these. Because once you start wondering what Tian knows, the film becomes more than people trying to survive long enough to reach the next room. After the call, Lucian opens a drawer and takes out an old plaque covered in strange symbols. He looks at it, clearly bothered, then puts it away. No explanation, no flashback. Just let us see it and wonder where it came from. The rest of the crew only needs a few small moments. Someone tries to take Paul's stuffed rabbit, and he reacts much more strongly than expected. So now we know it means something. Emily and Smith think they are hiding their relationship, while everybody else clearly knows about it. Give me 30 seconds of that. Not long, just enough for me to get to know them better. Then everybody goes back to work. Nora returns to rest, brushes her teeth, and now the station ruptures. Same disaster, same frantic panic. The difference is that now the people running through those corridors are people I have actually met. My second change is simpler. I would remove the early scene in which they capture and examine the juvenile creature. The moment you put the monster on a table, some of the mystery dies with it. Instead, the second act becomes a cat-and-mouse chase through a station that is already falling apart. Somewhere in there, a creature is hunting them. Or at least, that is what the crew and the audience think. There is also one aesthetic problem I would fix immediately: the monsters. Their designs feel generic and unfinished, almost as though they were placeholders for more impressive CGI. That weakness becomes even more obvious next to Alien, whose creature was so distinctive and terrifying that it became one of the most iconic monsters in film history. The creatures in Underwater never established that kind of identity. Redesigning them to be distinctive terrifying and instantly recognizable would be one of my biggest changes, and it would not require altering a single line of the script. It is not a cheap fix, but it would make a huge difference. So, back to the action. As our heroes fight for their lives, they realize that the creature hunts by detecting vibrations. The original suggests that it is attracted to light, but that creates a practical problem. If survival depends on turning off every light, you are now filming blackness. Vibration works better. It gives the characters a rule they can understand and exploit without making the action impossible to see. And it feels natural underwater, where many fish, including sharks, can detect movement and pressure changes in the surrounding water. It also fixes another problem I have with the original. Too much of the movie consists of people walking through murky, dark water while we stare through their helmet visors into blackness. The first time it works. By the fifth time, it becomes irritating. Darkness should hide the monster, not the movie. So I would keep the murky water and the uneasy atmosphere, but add more variety and clarity to the visuals. For example, we have the scene where Smith and Paul go outside to inspect one of the damaged escape pods, hoping there might still be survivors. But they can barely see a thing. Instead of finding the juvenile monster, I would have them fire a flare into the darkness. For a few seconds, that red light would reveal something enormous in the distance. An ancient underwater building, clearly artificial, massive, and impossible. Then the flare dies, the structure vanishes back into the black water, and they are left wondering what the hell they just saw. I would not explain it there and then. The whole point is to shift the question. At first it is, what is hunting them? Then it becomes, what the hell is down here? In the next scene, instead of discussing the juvenile creature, the crew would argue about the sheer impossibility of a man-made structure existing at that depth. While the others argue, Lucian notices that the symbols in Smith's helmet footage match those on the plaque. He says nothing. That way, the film keeps its mystery, adds a striking visual the original is missing, and starts pushing the story towards something bigger than just a monster attack. I would also give Rodrigo a better arc. The psychological pressure and fear break him. He panics and seals a compartment too early, trapping Smith on the wrong side and almost killing him. Now the others know Rodrigo is dangerous. Later, when the creature closes in on Smith, Rodrigo activates a damaged pump behind him. The vibration draws the creature away from the others and toward Rodrigo. His earlier panic endangered the crew. This time, his choice saves them. This also introduces another threat in the movie, the crew themselves. At this depth, it is not enough for the equipment to hold together. The people have to hold together too. Near the end of the second act, the creature chases them through corridor after corridor, smashing through each hatch seconds after they seal it, with the crew barely staying ahead as the station collapses around them. Lucian realizes they are not going to make it unless somebody stays behind to block the path. Nora refuses to leave and starts looking for another way. That is what we have established about her. She solves problems. Lucian tells her to stop. She has to go, because she's the only one who can repair the escape system and save the others. And neither of them has time to talk about it now. She leaves him behind. And because we build their relationship first, the goodbye finally has weight. Lucian destroys the corridor, lets the pressure take the whole section, and takes the creature with it. In my version, the second act leans much more into action horror territory. Instead of mostly following people as they walk through things we can barely see, we get more mystery, more terror, and the frantic pace of the chase scene near the end of Alien 3. We only make a few cuts and add a few new scenes, but we keep most of the movie intact. The survivors head to Roebuck, as in the original, with Nora and Emily dragging the injured Smith. Then something moves outside. One shape becomes several, then dozens, then hundreds, and suddenly we understand that the monster hunting them was not unique at all. Before the survivors have time to comprehend what they are seeing, the darkness behind the station moves. At first, you cannot tell what you are looking at because it is too big. Part of it rises. The station lights catch it, and it keeps going until Roebuck looks small beside it. And this is where I stop making a monster movie and reveal that we've actually been watching a cosmic horror story. And here's the funny part. I'm not even inventing this. Director William Eubank later confirmed that the creature at the end is Cthulhu. Cthulhu! Come on! If you're bringing Lovecraft into the story, go all in. For the first two acts, the audience thinks it understands the rules. There is a creature in the station and the crew has to survive it. The third act should make us realize that the creature was never the real story, only the first visible piece of something so old and enormous that the human characters and even Tian Industries barely understand. Inside Roebuck, most local systems are damaged, but some are still running. We get to the scene where they reach the escape pods. I would keep Nora's choice from the original intact because her sacrifice is one of the strongest parts of the ending. Only one bay is accessible and only 2 pods work, so she sends Emily and Smith away and stays behind. She's willing to die to save them. In them, she sees the people she has already lost, her fiancé and now Lucien. But now the creatures are swarming around the station and Nora knows the pods cannot reach safety. She turns the drill back on, sending violent vibrations through the water. The swarm immediately turns toward it. Cthulhu does not follow them like an animal. It recognizes the machine that tore into its buried city and deliberately moves to destroy it. Nora has not fooled the creature. She has given its anger a target. For a moment, it works. The creatures abandon the pods and converge on the drill. But several of them notice the escaping survivors and break away. Nora sees them closing in and realizes there is only one way to stop them. Blow the whole damn place to hell, Behemoth included. She starts the core overload, and that is when Tian calls. Because of course they do. They tell her to stop, say that a surface recovery vessel has been dispatched, and insist that the organism must be studied. Engineer Price, terminate the overload sequence. You are not authorized to destroy Tian property. Nora looks at the screen and replies, "Feel free to come and stop me." Tian tries to shut the overload down remotely, so Nora disconnects the system. Tian gives her one last warning. You have no idea what destroying that station will unleash. I would leave that hanging. Are they only trying to save their research? Or do they know that blowing up Roebuck might make things worse? We do not need the answer. Nora ends the transmission, and that is the moment she stops being Lucien's protégé and becomes the person in charge. At this point, like in the original, she expects to die. She has made peace with herself, but the creature's attack has opened a flooded route to another escape pod bay. Nora realizes there might be another way out. She swims through corridors lined with dormant creatures, as slowly as she can, while the core counts down behind her. One sudden movement could wake everything around her. Nora reaches the second pod bay, finds a damaged pod that barely powers up, and gets in anyway. For me, that does not weaken her sacrifice. She was willing to die to save Emily and Smith. She simply refuses to die once another option appears. It turns her final escape into a tense horror sequence, pays off everything we've learned about the creatures, and gives Nora one last heroic moment. She launches seconds before Roebuck explodes. Then the shockwave hits it from below. The controls fail. The hull groans. A seal starts to fail, water sprays into the cabin, and cracks spread across the outer layer of the viewport while the pod climbs through thousands of meters of water. And for once, there is nothing Nora can fix. She just has to hope the pod holds together. Finally, the pod breaks through the surface at dawn. For the first time in the whole movie, we see open sky. I would let that shot breathe because after spending the film trapped under metal and water, that is the release the ending needs. Then, a Tian Industries recovery ship appears in the distance. Which is good news, probably. What this ending fixes for me is how anticlimactic the original feels, both visually and narratively. There is clearly some mystery surrounding the station and what the company was doing down there, but the film never explores it. Then Nora, the character we have followed for the entire movie, simply accepts her death and blows herself up with the creature. Hell, we do not even get a proper shot of Smith and Emily escaping. That is not necessarily a bad choice. The director had a vision and committed to it. But since we are trying to figure out why the film ultimately did fail and how to fix it, I think this is one of the places where that vision worked against it. After everything the movie builds toward, the audience gets very little payoff. No real answers, no emotional release. And the problem is not that the ending is bleak. Rogue One is bleak as hell, and pretty much every main character dies. But their sacrifice delivers the Death Star plans. The final handoff to Leia transforms tragedy into hope. Underwater does almost the opposite, and it's a letdown. That is how I would fix Underwater. Most of these changes would not add much runtime, because they replace scenes that are already there. The original already has the ingredients of a cult classic, but it is too impatient to make us care about its characters, and too hesitant to fully embrace the cosmic horror beneath the surface. I would take what begins as Alien in the Deep, give it stronger characters, a more carefully structured threat, and a mystery of its own, and push it all the way into Lovecraftian horror. But that is my version. What would you change? Would you keep Nora's death, or let her reach the surface? Would you keep Underwater as a one-off story like The Abyss? Or leave the door open and go full Aliens with a sequel? Tell me in the comments, and join me next time because the next movie we are trying to repair has a problem that is not buried 7 miles under the ocean. It is hanging directly above the Earth. Yes, we are doing the magnificent mess that is Moonfall.